Hackers, hackers, hackers. A tale as old as time. They're hacking into your computer to steal your bank information, and they're also hacking into your computer while you're playing Call of Duty. A new round of exploits have been found that people are using Call of Duty World War II to hack into players live in the game. And if you're asking why I'm so shiny right now, the AC in my basement studio is out, and I am very hot. Now, I want to show you the video kind of setting the stage here. Call of Duty World War II recently came out, and people have been getting hacked during the game. Take example right here. This guy is just walking around shooting, bada bing, bada boom, and then suddenly a terminal pops up, a couple more terminals, and then a notepad that says, "Hey, I just RCE'd your ass. Please contact Mitchell Sullerberger and Canup LLP," talking about a lawyer, lawyer up effectively, right? The world of video game hacking is not new, obviously. People have been doing cheats where you can clip through walls, you can see the map state of League of Legends, for example, since the beginning of gaming itself. But this is a little more interesting, where now people are able to exploit as a player onto the game of another player. Well, a special method that this gentleman Maurice Human found in 2017, actually exactly about Call of Duty, allowed him to get remote code execution on other players' computers circa 2017. This is not a new technique. What this gentleman did is actually pretty interesting. So what he was able to do, and again, 2017, this is not a new concept, and I'm sure that for World War II, it's the same idea. Without going into detail, the security issue allows a player in Call of Duty to cause a buffer overflow on the host system inside of a stack allocated buffer within the game's network handling. Now, this is very important to go into to understand how these games work. Now, let me be very clear. I'm making large assumptions about the network architecture of Call of Duty. I have not worked at Activision. I am not a network architect for games, right? That's not my job. But this is how I would imagine any peer-to-peer system works. A lot of the time, the way that games are set up is that you have dedicated servers where client 1 up to client N are able to send and receive packets to each other, right? So client 1 is like, "Hey, I am moving up 10 movement units," and then client N gets that packet because the server is sending it to everybody. Now, what's happening here is, because of the nature of peer-to-peer networking, somebody has to have hosts. What that used to mean back in the day is, like, you were the person that was delegating all the packets, you were the person that was acting as the server. And because of that, there is an extra piece of code that your computer needs to run to act as a server. You are literally the one that is forwarding all these packets, right? So that means that just inherently there is more code that has to run on your system. You know what's not going to hack you? The sponsor of today's video, guys, it's me. Hello. Guys, I honestly believe that if you're a programmer trying to write fast, effective code, or you're a cybersecurity professional trying to stop your stuff from getting attacked, all of these require you to know the basic fundamentals of computers. My courses on Low Level Academy teach you languages like C, networking in C, threading in C, assembly, and even a new installment, Rust, to learn the basics of how computers work. And Zero to Hero C programming will teach you the basics of the C programming language, the language that runs all other languages, and you can even learn arrays in C right now for free. Go check that lesson out. If you want to learn assembly, my ARM load operations lesson is also free, and I also have a free 3-day C course that you can check out right here on the landing page. Guys, if you want to be a good programmer, you got to know the fundamentals, and where do you learn the fundamentals? On Low Level Academy. All right, guys, back to the video. See you there. This gentleman reverse engineered the network protocol of this version of Call of Duty. Again, it was Call of Duty in 2017, so maybe not World War II, but maybe like a Modern Warfare variant, right? He was able to look at documentation on the Quake 3 network protocol. Quake 3, obviously a very common, very fun shooter from back in the day. Apparently, the Call of Duty networking protocol rides on top of an implementation that looks like Quake 3 networking. So he was able to recreate in a separate program the Call of Duty networking stack and use that to inject packets into the game. And because of that, he was able to find and exploit a vulnerability in the host system using a stack allocated buffer. This is hacking 101, right? If you don't know what this is, if you're not really a hacker, all you need to know is that basically buffers for computer memory are put on this structure called the stack. At the bottom of the stack is the return pointer that tells the computer what code to execute next once that function finishes. And if you can control that return pointer, you get to tell the computer what code to run. And by using this fun little technique called return-oriented programming, you're able to tell the computer to do very particular things like allocate new pages of memory, put shellcode there, protect them, and execute them. By doing this, you get RCE, which is what's mentioned in all these tweets, remote code execution on the host machine. And again, I think just by the nature of how this gentleman worded this, it's only possible if you are the server or if you have host during Call of Duty. Now, at the time that this gentleman wrote this article, again, this article that I'm reading is from 2017, these bugs were not patched. These were bugs that were actively alive in Call of Duty at the time. Then, since this article has been out, they have been patched, so Maurice was very nice, like all researchers should be. He was nice enough to publish his code. This literally, and I'll put it in the description below, is the project in C++ that you're able to, or that you were able to use to exploit Modern Warfare 2. And you can see here that there is a function called build payload, right? And so build payload has this parameter number that allows you to choose which payload that you're building. And so you can see a payload -1 starts the actual process of running this exploit, and then numbers 0 through n have a variety of different types of payloads, likely different vulnerabilities that he found in the code of how the host processes client packets. So you can see he's setting up a packet to be sent where you can send things to the host like player sprint speed scale 5, player sprint unlimited 1, right? Or sprint unlimited 0, SER war score kill this number. I'm not going to say this word, but this number, right? So what you're seeing here is there are like these client request commands that you're sending to the server, and likely, again, I haven't done the RE myself, likely there's a vulnerability from Modern Warfare 2 back in the day that allowed you to take advantage of a memory corruption issue in the server in the way that the server processes this data. If this is true for Modern Warfare 2, and this new bug that we're seeing is in Call of Duty World War II, they likely reused, as any company would, the same kind of code, the same flavor of the code written by the same people that is used to do the host management of the system, or that is used to do the server-client interactions. So my assumption, and again, I don't have any formal knowledge of this, I found out about this yesterday. What I'm assuming is that there is a vulnerability in the host software when you have host, similar to the vulnerability that Maurice talked about in 2017, where there is a memory corruption issue in the way that they handle certain client packets such that a user can exploit it with return-oriented programming to do things on your computer in the form of spawn a shell, pop up notepad, spawn, prawnhub.com. I've seen that happen a few times for certain people. So this is the nature of how I think it is happening. Now, the question you may ask is like, well, why is anti-cheat not catching this? Well, it's not really a cheat, right? All anti-cheats are doing is looking at the current state of the program that is running and saying, are there other programs that are trying to inject memory into this process? Or are there weird peripherals, like a controller that's known to be banned, or a weird monitor that has special features, like those sorts of things. But there's no way for the anti-cheat to check if the code has a memory corruption vulnerability that is being exploited, right? That would be insane. That is not a thing that if anti-cheats could check. If they could, they would literally be groundbreaking in the form of doing, basically vuln research. So anyway, guys, this is how I think it is happening. Again, I have no authoritative knowledge on this. I just think that based on this article that I read from 2017 that I will link, the code that I have read of the exploit, and just the nature of like the politics of companies, right? They're not going to rewrite the entire network stack. They're probably going to borrow from old games. It is likely a similar kind of bug that if you have host, you are processing more data. And once you process that more data, more bugs can arise, and certain hackers are taking advantage of this. My recommendation from a pure cybersecurity standpoint, don't play Call of Duty in the form that this is set up. The question also is like, can this be exploited on Xbox? I don't know the architecture of Xbox games. I don't know how the server client setup is. If Xbox has dedicated hosts where they're the ones processing all the client requests, it's safe. If there is a way for you to have host where people are routing the traffic through your server in your local house, like in your Xbox, then I don't think that it's safe, right? And obviously the implementation here is that I'm not sure if this is a Steam version or sorry. So I misspoke before. This is not the Steam version. This is the Call of Duty World War II on PC, the one that was released on Game Pass, which is not implemented downloaded from Steam and therefore does not have Steam dedicated servers. What is likely happening is that people have hosts on their own computer, and because of that, they're vulnerable to these RCE attacks, remote code execution attacks, in the way that the code works for the server stuff. So again, anyway, guys, this is my take on it. Don't take anything I say as gospel, because I'm just a sweaty guy in a basement. If you're new here, hit that sub button. Really appreciate it. I love you. See you next time. Goodbye.